17 and a half minutes after 7 on this Thursday morning. Securys is renowned data protection consultancy firm based in the United Kingdom. It is set to actually broaden its presence in this region with the opening of a new branch in Jamaica. No stranger to the island, Securys will close the gap between itself and its existing local partners by officially opening its doors this month. Joining us to tell us more is the founder and principal of Securys Limited, Ben Rapp. Welcome to Sunrise, Ben.
Thank you.
Good
Good
morning, Ben. Should I say, how you doing, mate?
Very good. Right.
Let me tell you, companies like Securys, in the ecosystem in which we operate right now, you have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
There is so much more work to do, but I'm happy that we now have a Data Protection Act in Jamaica, which triggers the need for you. I mean, Securys, what does Securys do for its clients in the region?
What we do is delivering privacy programs. So if you think about where you start, which is that you will have some security, right? Everybody's already got some cybersecurity. They're conscious of the risk of hacking.
Yeah.
And that gets you some of the way. But the thing about data protection is it is about security, but it's also about fairness. So really the next step is to make sure that it's not just what data you have, it's what you're doing with it, it's how long you keep it, it's whether what you're doing with it is legal, and it's whether it's fair to the data sub, the people, your customers. And we help you build that program.
Ben, data is essentially, many people say, the new oil. In the economy, in the society in which we live, people talk about fourth industrial revolution, it is so key that data is so valuable. Why?
Why? Well, because data is how we mediate our relationships now, right? So that's how we manage how we relate to everybody, to each other. If you think about previous guests talking about TikTok, if you think about how much data you share when you want to open a bank account or buy a car, you think about how frequently you're handing over data just when you go shopping. And that's because everybody's driving their businesses through data. They're seeking insights. They're trying to understand their customers. Now, that can be a good thing, because if they understand their customers, they can give their customers what they want.
Right.
Or it can be a bad thing, because if they understand their customers, they can manipulate them. And so data protection law is to make sure that the good things happen and the bad things don't.
Right.
But at the end, it's good for all of us, because the more efficiently the economy works, the better everybody does.
So I'm going to just ask this plain and simple. There's nothing that we can do without having to divulge a lot of information. So I go to a bank, my license is on file, it has my address, it has my phone number, it has my date of birth. That's my entire profile. They ask for further information because I'm seeking a mortgage, and so they have a job letter. So they have my income, they know where I work, they know everything about me, Ben. How do I know as a consumer that my information is, one, protected, and two, how am I made comfortable to know that I can divulge this without the risk of literally someone stealing my identity and then I end up being a part of some fraud?
Sure. I think there are two steps to this. The first is that the organization is supposed to tell you exactly what they're doing. So they have a thing called a privacy notice, and if you go to their website or you get it when they send their information packs to you, it should, in plain English, explain to you what data they're collecting, why they're collecting it, what they're going to use it for, who they're going to share it with, and what rights you have. So that's the first part.
Right.
And then the second part is you have those rights and you can use them to ask them what they've got, what they're doing with it, to correct it if it's wrong, to erase it if they don't need it anymore. You have a right to object if you don't like the processing that they're doing. Doesn't mean that they'll stop, because they might have to do that processing. But that's the point about this law. It gives you more control, and it helps to balance that asymmetric relationship between this large institution and all the individual customers. That's why I said it was about fairness.
One of the things about the data protection legislation that I appreciate is that some legislation says, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But the data protection legislation says, you collect people's data, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. To what extent are companies in Jamaica taking on your services, which is, I suppose, an indicator of whether or not they're getting it?
Yeah, I think it's early days. Where data protection's a journey, and this has been just as true everywhere else. You get a law, people start to understand what's needed, and then there is a process of some organizations leading and showing that it delivers value. If you think about the advantages of doing it well, better customer trust, more efficiency, once you see that working, that's really where the groundswell comes from. It's really interesting that you get a lot of selling on the basis of fear at the beginning. You'll get people running around saying, do this or you'll get fined. But really you should do it because it's the right thing to do and because it makes your company more trustworthy, it makes your company more efficient. So we've worked, as you probably know, with Sagicor and built their privacy program. We're working with a number of other companies in Jamaica and more widely across the Caribbean. But we're at the very beginning of this journey, and we're opening here partly because we can see that that appetite is now picking up, and there is a sense that it is the right thing to do.
You mentioned the appetite picking up. What does the Securys client look like, and what are the services that you'll offer the Securys client?
Sure, it's a huge range. So we work with anybody from a relatively small company, say 50 people, up to the largest companies in the world, and a lot of the large companies that trade across multiple regions. Our real expertise is in that multi-regional transferring of data between jurisdictions. And what we do, we start by working out the difference between what you're doing now and what you should be doing, so what's called a gap analysis. That just works. How big is the problem, right? How far away are you from being compliant? We'll then work with you to get there, which is a combination of changing what you do, so actually behaving fairly, and then documenting what you do, because that's how the law works. The way the law functions is that you have to prove that you're doing the right thing, and you have to have a series of pieces of paper, effectively. But those pieces of paper need to be living documents that actually drive how you behave. So if you do a risk assessment and you find that what you're doing is risky, you should change that. You shouldn't just go, oh, it's risky, and we'll file it in a drawer. You need to actually make some changes. And then once you're in that position where you're compliant, we work as your data protection officer to keep you that way. So it's a journey, just like data protection as a whole is a journey.
So you don't have to be afraid that I now need to hire a data protection officer in-house. I can...
Yeah, we and others. I mean, we're not the only people in Jamaica that do this, but yes, that's for most organizations, that's going to be the right answer, partly because of how data protection officers are constructed in the law. They have to have a degree of independence. They have to be properly qualified. It's hard to find the right people. Well, I mean, unless you've got the right scale and you can afford to hire somebody who only does that job, because the real thing about a data protection officer is they can't mark their own homework. So they can't be making the decisions about how you process data. They're just auditing the decisions that you've made and checking they're the right ones. So if you can't manage to have someone who just does that, then you get someone in the same way that you don't audit your own accounts.
Right. Absolutely not the same category, but fish and chips or tea and crumpets. Come on. Come on, Ben. Say the right
fish
answer.
and chips.
Fish and chips every day of the week.
I knew you were that kind of guy. Every day. Salt and vinegar on the chips?
Absolutely.
Mushy peas? Mushy peas, isn't it?
Can we skip the mushy
I'm a bit too southern for mushy peas.
Welcome to Jamaica.
Are you red or blue? Your football team?
Oh, I'm not really a football person, but I suppose technically I'm probably red. I live in an Arsenal part of the world.
Oh, that's where the interview ends. Thanks so much. That's been Ben Rapp, and that's a wrap. But I'm kidding, no. He's the founder and principal of Securys Limited. Thank you so much, as I say with my Manchester United shirt underneath my dress. Coming up after the break, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. What is it? Who is it for? Well, we'll learn more. Stick and stay with us.